Good morning. Why don't you guys stand to your feet? Hey, Brian. Why don't you guys come on in from the lobby? Sing some songs with us. See ya. Heaven thundered and the world was born. Life begins and ends in the dust you form. Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to Restoration Church. My name is Jeremy. I'm the creative arts director here. Just wanted to welcome you guys. It's a really, really exciting morning. We got a bunch of people dedicating their lives this morning to following Jesus. And if it's your first time here, on your seats, on your way in, on your seats, there's a connection card. If it's your first time, you just fill it out with as much information as you feel comfortable. We just want to know you're here and want to connect with you. We're going to keep singing this morning. We're singing about God's love, and just kind of a quick note real quick in case you're looking around and you think we may not take things quite so seriously here. Mike White, He got hurt pretty bad in his eye. He has a really bad light sensitivity, but he is such a dedicated musician that he is coming up here, eye patch on, wearing his hat to keep the lights from burning his retinas. But he's here to worship. He hopes you worship. We just hope you can worship this morning with everything put aside. When we're stripped down to nothing, we're feeling like we have nothing to offer. God loves us. He wants us to worship and to love him. So we're going to sing this song, Reckless Love, all right? Let's sing it together. 99, and I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Your love fought for me. One of the lines in this chorus I think needs some explaining if you haven't read through a lot of your Bible, or if you're first time here, a few times here. Kind of when you hear the song Reckless Love, that normally that's a negative thing. We talked about someone being reckless. We don't believe that God's love is irresponsible. We don't believe that God's love is something he just doesn't care enough about. It's just like a thing that he has. That's not what we believe. But one of the lines he talks about is he leaves the 99, and that can be a bit confusing, but Jesus tells a story of a shepherd who has 100 sheep and one wanders off. And I'd say probably a good business model would be, that's one sheep, you have 99 here, why don't you tend to those and take care of those? That's your income. Like, losing 1% of your income is not going to be that big a deal to you. You can just stick with that. But he tells the story of this shepherd. He would leave the 99 there, and the 99 good ones he left there that didn't run off, and he'll run off and search for that one sheep that wandered off. And that can be viewed as really kind of reckless, a reckless thing to do. You just leave the rest. And then Jesus shares that there's more celebration in the one sheep that returns than there is of the 99 that stayed. And God is willing to sacrifice anything to reach just that one person that wandered off, that one person that hasn't come to him yet. So as we sing, it's a reckless love from the worldly view. Yeah, that is really reckless. To send your son and let him die just to save one person. You have 99 good ones. You don't need to do anything else. Like, you're all set. But he sent his son, and he died on the cross just for that one person. He put himself in harm's way time and time again just to reach one more person. I want to sing this bridge one more time. Now that we have that kind of in our heads, when he leaves the 99, he's searching for that one more person. And there's nothing God won't do to get to you, to let you know that he loves you. Sing it out. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Come on, no wall. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on, you sing it out. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, as deep cries out to deep. Oh, how desperately he wants us. The things of earth stand next to him like a candle to the sun. Unfailing Father, what compares to his great love? Behold his holy Son, the Lion and the Lamb given to us. The Word became a man, that my soul should know its Savior. Forsaken for the sake of all mankind, salvation is in his blood. Jesus Messiah, the righteous died for love. Sings my soul, my God, how great your love is. How great your love is. Praise you enough for the love that you've given us. There's nothing we could do to deserve this. But God, we're gonna continue to praise you. We're gonna continue to tell the world about you. God, we're gonna continue to give you our all. So God, we love you so much, and God, we just pray we could come close to the love that you have for us. And God, we just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, why don't you guys shake someone's hand and welcome them to church.
Morning, everybody. My name is Nate. I'm the lead pastor here at Restoration Church, and we're so glad that you're here. We're finishing up a series today called This Year Will Be Different, and one thing that we do every week at our church is we open the Bible and we talk from it, and we open our hearts to it, and we allow Jesus to do a work in our life. And so I know because we have a baptism today, we might have some people here who've never been to church before, and all of this can seem completely bizarre to you, but we want to ultimately this morning help you to hear about Jesus, because maybe you've never heard about him like the way we're going to talk about him, and ultimately, like, we want you to we'd love for you to have your life to change by him like we have. And so that's why we sing, that's why we having a water baptism, that's why we do everything we do, because, man, we really believe what we're talking about. And kind of beyond just like a head belief, we've had our lives changed by him. And so just amazing. So if you're here and you've never heard about that, man, we just kind of listen in. And one thing about Jesus is he is available to everyone. So it doesn't matter what you've done, where you've come from, who your family members are. He will still, he'll still receive you and still allow you to follow him. If you've never been to a church like ours before, if you've never been to church before, if you think that this morning is just crazy and absolutely bizarre, I have a story from my life that will top your story. It'll top this experience now. So when I was a kid, there was this short time in our life where we went to this really small church. And probably like maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years that we went to this really small church. And it was about 25 people. And this one Sunday, I will never forget, and it was, I was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time. And so when we went into the service, again, 25 people in one room. There's no kids programs because there was only like 4 kids. And so 25 people, everybody combined. And we we're in this one service, and so there was these 3 guys in the service who I'd never seen before, and now looking back on it, I think they were drunk. I think they were drunk at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning because they were absolutely acting like it. So during the song service, which, it wasn't loud and they didn't have a full band like we do, these 3 guys were just at the top of their lungs laughing and mocking everybody in the church. They were fake raising their hands and then making fun of people, and just right during the service. And so they're shouting stuff out like amen and hallelujah and all that stuff. And then the worship ended, and then it was time for the preaching. So the room's quiet like this, and the pastor, he was much more of a shouter than I am. And so he just starts preaching, and those 3 guys sitting over there they don't slow down. They're just as loud as they were during the song set. And I remember sitting near the back, looking at those 3 guys, absolutely terrified. That was the scariest Sunday morning of my life, even scarier than the Sunday I was voted in as lead pastor. Just absolutely terrifying. And so when the preaching happened, because it was this small storefront church, behind the pastor was this big picture window that they had a curtain over it. And then to the left of the pastor was this giant glass doorway looking out to the sidewalk. And so one of the guys had the brilliant idea. He left the service and then went to the glass door and started dancing while the pastor was preaching, and then he went behind a picture window, and there was a curtain there, but because it was early morning and the sun was hitting, you could see his entire shadow. And so he started like disrupting the service, and the 2 guys in the service were laughing at the top of their lungs. It was crazy, and the pastor just kept on preaching. And honestly, I don't know how he did that. Sometimes you guys bring your kids in here and they cry and stuff, and I preached through it, and people think how do you do that? And because I have 4 children, so I'm used to tuning stuff out. But I can't imagine. I honestly don't know what his strategy was. As a pastor, get out of here. Well, anyway, there's a Bible word for that type of person. And that word is a scoffer. And it could, depending on the Bible translation, have that word, because when Solomon wrote about the word scoffer, he was writing in a language called Hebrew. So as that's translated to English, your Bible could translate that word to either scoffer or mocker. And while any of us would ever enter a church service and act that overtly, we act like a scoffer that overtly, like those guys were. Scoffing is actually pretty common. It's common in churches. It's common actually in our culture. And it's pretty encouraged by our culture. Memes mocking other people, it's just everywhere. And it's even a prime tactic in debating. And it's so prevalent, it's so common that you may even be a scoffer. And so if you're here this morning and you're like, what are these crazy people doing, raising their hands, what a bunch of, all this service is garbage, the pastor's garbage, who told him to buy those new glasses, those are so stupid. You're beginning to identify oh man, this guy, maybe I am a scoffer. So let's look at this and let's define this. What is a scoffer? So Pastor Tim Keller says a scoffer's behavior is defined by 2 characteristics. So the first is that he or she is marked by dogmatism. And so if you're dogmatic, that means that you have a point of view and you don't consider any other point of view. Your point of view is the only point of view that's right. So that's dogmatic. And so they have a closed mind. They don't consider other people's opinions. They never care to ask why other people believe they are, or try to hear other people's perspective. It's my way or the highway. And the scoffer never says, I might be wrong, and they never say, I was wrong. The scoffer is always right. So you probably experienced this. Someone says something, and then you're like, no, actually, I think it's this way. And they're like, no, it's this way. And I'm like, and you're right. So you're like, why don't you Google it? And so then to look it up, they're like, turtles are reptiles. Well, and they will never admit that they're wrong They just always they just change the subject and move on. Second, the second characteristic of a scoffer is that they show no respect for opponents or people who have opposing points of view. So when you begin to, if someone has a point of view and you begin to say, well, here's my point of view, they immediately resort to belittling you, insulting you, and mocking you, or that point of view. So you'll see people do this, and again, you might do this, but someone shares their point of view, and it's just immediately, well, that's stupid, or, well, you're stupid. And there's no, trying to help you understand or trying to hear where you're coming from or any interest in why you would believe that. It's just, well, you're stupid. So someone says, I believe the earth is flat. And so you just immediately, well, that's stupid, you're stupid. Well, on the kind of flip side, if you're like, well, I believe the earth is round, then those people, they just immediately say, well, that's stupid, you're stupid. So there's always, for the scoffer, there's always this contempt and this disdain toward opponents or opposing points of view. And so you just always have to put them down and make them feel stupid and make them look stupid. That's the way you make your idea or your point of view shine the brightest. So Pastor Tim Keller says that these two characteristics show or comprise the spiritual condition of the scoffer. And this mocking, insulting, belittling characteristic, it is a spiritual thing, which maybe you don't realize. And hopefully, as you're here, sitting here, as you recognize that you are that person and that you act this way, that you'll allow Jesus to do something in your life right now. So why does this matter to you? Why do we talk about this today? Why did Solomon write about this? Because the scoffer will never receive what Jesus offers. And this is the big thing that we're talking about this morning. This is why it's a big deal. This is why you want to make sure that you're not this. In this series, this year will be different. We've been preaching the series as a statement of faith. This year will be different. I'm not going to keep repeating the same sins, the same patterns, the same mistakes over and over again. I'm going to be free this year. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go after. I'm not going to be held back. I'm going to go after what God has for me, what Jesus has for me. And if you follow Jesus every day, which is not difficult to follow him for one day, it's not this huge list of rules, just follow him for today. He will make this year different. And we believe that. But the scoffer will never be able to pursue what Jesus has for them because they'll be too busy making fun of other people who already have it. And kind of on this flip side, maybe you're not a scoffer, but you're around scoffers. The scoffers will try to keep you from going after what Jesus offers you. The scoffer, you want to come forward and to be prayed for, but the scoffer is going to make fun of that. You want to get healthy, the scoffer is going to make fun of that. So in this series, we've been looking at the book of Proverbs, which was written by Solomon, who I already referenced. And he's warning his sons, and especially his son Rehoboam, who's going to become king after him. And he's saying, hey, listen, here are the warnings. If you're going to accomplish everything God has for you, if you're going to lead God's people well, if you're going to experience everything God has, here's this book of wisdom and this book of warnings. And he warns about 4 types of people, saying don't go near these types of people, and especially don't become these types of people. And in the verse we're about to read, if you got your Bibles, you can open to Proverbs 21. He's telling his son, don't go near the scoffer, and especially don't become the scoffer. And so it's warning for his sons, and it's a warning for us as well. If you don't have a Bible, we'd love to give you one. If you go to the Welcome Center, they'll give you one for free. And then, of course, you can download the Bible app on your phone and just begin to follow along with us and learn with us as we as we open the Bible today. So Proverbs chapter 21, verse number 11. I'm just going to read one verse this morning because there's enough in here for us to fill all of our time here today. So it says, when a scoffer is punished, the simple become wise. When a wise man is instructed, he gains knowledge. So 3 types of people that Solomon's writing and warning about in this passage. The scoffer is one. The simple is the second group of people. And reading that quickly, you might think the scoffer is the simple, but they're different groups of people. And then lastly, the wise. So Solomon is giving his son leadership advice. And so if you're a leader in your organization, where you work, there's something to learn here that'll help you to be a better leader where you are. And then maybe you're not where you work, but you're a leader in your family, and then you certainly have to lead yourself. So there's a lot to learn here and to be able to apply. So Solomon says the first thing, he says, you need to punish a scoffer. So it says when a scoffer is punished, then there's going to be this reaction. But it's implied here, you need to punish a scoffer. And when you punish a scoffer, they hate you, they mock you, they attack you, and they receive no benefit from it. So you're not punishing a scoffer to help them to learn. And you think like punish, doesn't that seem harsh? Isn't there a way you could teach them, that you can help them to grow, help them to get better? And if you have a puppy, which people get from time to time, you have to teach it. And everybody gets this. And one of the things you teach a puppy is not to bite. It's very important. Because if you don't teach a puppy to bite, eventually you're going to fall in love with it. It's going to bite someone, and you're going to have to put it down. So you got to teach that puppy not to bite. Now, you don't waste your time training a mosquito to stop biting. Like, the thing's only going to live 24 hours anyway. And you're not going to be like, oh, come on. Like, you're welcome to land on here, but don't bite. And then when it bites you, you like tap it like, that's a bad mosquito. You're not wasting your time doing that. When that thing lands on you, you kill it. You punish it. It's just a mosquito. No big deal. And, you think like, if you're, I know there's people in here and they love, they save every stink bug they can find, and, and you're really, you don't kill spiders. I know we have a lot of people like that in the church, but I don't think any of you are trying to save mosquitoes. I don't think, you're not like out in the woods, just going to let nature be nature and just letting it bite you, because one bite from a mosquito could be a matter of life and death. You think like I'm exaggerating it, but mosquitoes cause more disease and death than any other creature on earth, more than rats, more than anything else. So one bite from a mosquito, you could catch malaria, yellow fever, Zika, West Nile. You could catch the dengue fever. This next one I don't know how to pronounce. I've never heard of it, but you can get it. Filariasis, and then several forms of encephalitis from a mosquito. Every year, 700 million people get a disease from a mosquito, from one bite of a mosquito, and more than 1 million people die every year from a mosquito. So you think like it's one little mosquito, I just, if it's going to bite me, I need to let it, I don't need to stop it. No, it's a big deal. Like, you could die. And the reason why Solomon is not holding back any punches here for the scoffer is because the scoffer is leading people away from Jesus. They're leading people away from God. And that is far worse than malaria. He tells his son elsewhere in Proverbs to punish a scoffer by telling them not to come back. Leave. And that's probably what that pastor should have done with those 3 guys. Like, hey, guys, get out of here. And you could begin to think like, well, they need Jesus too. They're not going to receive him like that. But one thing they are doing is keeping everybody else from experiencing him and having their lives change. I could have, as a 7-year-old, said, Mom, I'm traumatized for life. I'm going to need counseling and an anxiety dog. And I'm not going back to church ever again. Like, there's no way. And the pastor's going to think through, not about those 3 guys there, not about them, but to think about everybody else. And that's what Solomon's saying here in this next spot. And you could think like, that's not Christian, that's not loving, but it is it is caring for the next group of people, the simple. That's the responsibility of the leader. It's the responsibility of the king. So he says, when you punish the scoffer, the simple benefit. The simple people gain wisdom when you do that. So the simple people are those people who follow the crowd. They follow popular opinion. Whatever everybody else is doing, that's what these people are going to do. So you think about the 90s when people wore those Jenko jeans. Why people ever did that, I'm not sure, but it's because everybody else did it. You think about now, like, there's pastors who wear like the old gold rimmed glasses with the bar across it, like young guys who's wearing glasses like that. And I just see them popping up all over the place. I'm like, my dad wore those in the 80s. What the heck are you guys doing? But because one guy did it, now everybody else is like, I'm going to be a good pastor. I got to wear these hideous glasses. And you're like, that's why you did it. So I never thought about that. I've been wearing hideous glasses since second grade. I mean, I've got all the pictures to prove it. So it's nothing new. I was not a pastor then. So the simple people follow that. So when the scoffer is punished, all of a sudden simple people are like awakened to what they've been doing, and they learn something. I shouldn't do that. And so they correct their behavior, but the scoffer never will. And most of us are more simple than we'd like to admit. And we follow what the crowd is doing more than we'd like to admit. And so this is why it's so important not to be around the scoffer and then to make sure we correct scoffers, because the crowd, if the scoffer is left uncorrected, then the crowd just follows. So think about it this way. How many of you, when there's a church service going on, you want to raise your hands and worship, but you're waiting for someone else to raise their hand? And so you're just waiting, but as soon as that one person raises their hands, then you're like, yeah, I'm in it. But if someone's in the back of the room making fun of everybody who raises their hands, you're not going to raise your hand because you're just following the crowd. It's simple. So it's not to insult you, but kind of on a similar level, like you want to come forward in prayer, but you're not going to be that first person. So you're sitting back in your seat like, I really want to go forward. I really need prayer. I really need a miracle. Hopefully someone else does too, because if they don't go first, I'm not going to go. And you're just stuck waiting. Well, so this is showing us this. More of us are simple than we'd like to admit. And there's not anything wrong with that, but for the leaders, you have to be aware. If you're a leader in your organization, you have to be aware, like, I have a responsibility to the people who are following the crowd. In a high school, if you're a teacher in high school, that one kid that's disrupting your class is disrupting it for everyone. Now, we've got a bunch of college students and high school students that are in all of our services and certainly here now. And it's not a warm climate to Christianity in most classroom settings. And you'll have teachers mocking Christianity and mocking God. My son had to deal with this as a first grader. His teacher was mocking people who believe in God, and he came home sad. And we had to talk to the teacher about it. And so this is prevalent. It's all over the place. And normally the teacher gets up, bashes Christianity, bashes Jesus, bashes people who believe in Jesus, and the class is quiet, and the class goes along with it. But you have a responsibility as a follower to raise your hand in the air and say, oh, I'm actually one of those people you're making fun of. Yeah, I do believe in Jesus. Yeah, I love my church. Yeah, he's changed my life. You have a responsibility, and that teacher's going to take it out on you. They may affect your grade. They may, grade your papers differently than everybody else. They'll probably make fun of you in front of the entire class. And you have to do that. You have to stand up and correct a scoffer, because you have to think about everybody else in that room. And you raise your hand. You say oh yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people you're describing. And when you do that, and the teacher harasses you, what will happen? Other people in the room, someone else might at that point raise their hand and say, oh yeah, me too. But even if none of that happens, even if you're the only one, and the entire class makes fun of you and mocks you, later that day, later that week, maybe in a few years from now, someone's going to come find you out, and they're going to say, hey, you believe in God? Yeah. I have questions about him. Can I ask you? They'll come to you later and say, you pray? You think God answers prayer? Yeah? Could you pray for me? I'm going through this. And they never would have otherwise. So when that person stands up and they're scoffing and making fun of it, you can stay quiet, but then all those people are going to follow that teacher. But if you will just be able to stand up and not be a jerk about it, you're not saying like, you're an idiot, do you believe that? Because then you're a scoffer too to their point of view, but to just say like, hey, here's my story from my life. Here's how my life was changed. Maybe your church was like that. Here's what my church is like. And then you create an avenue for people who follow the crowd to gain wisdom, to begin to pursue Jesus where they never would have had the courage to otherwise. And what we know as people who follow Jesus, for us, people's eternities are at stake. And so you can tell us to shut up and keep our faith to ourselves, but we cannot, because people's eternities are at stake. We believe in heaven, we believe in hell, and you may think that Christians want everybody to go to hell, but that's not this church. That's not us. We want everybody to hear the good news of Jesus, to experience his love like we've experienced it, to have their lives changed like our lives have been changed, and to receive heaven and experience heaven. So we have to tell people about it because we want them to experience Jesus and experience heaven. And we would shut up and be quiet if we wanted the opposite to be true. So you can't let a scoffer keep you from sharing and telling your story and telling what you've experienced. And then the third group of people is the wise. And the wise seem to be the exact opposite of the scoffer. They love wisdom. They like instruction. They even like being corrected and being and receiving correction, because they know, here's an opportunity for me to grow. Here's an opportunity for me to become more like Jesus. Here's an opportunity for me to be changed. And when we're hiring here at the church or we're promoting a volunteer into leadership, this is the type of person we're looking for. You'll hear us express it this way a lot, that you're teachable and correctable. And the scoffer, they'll say that they're teachable, except they'll only be taught. They only want to learn about things that they already know are true. So they don't want to be corrected. They don't want to have to grow. And so people who are teachable and correctable are amazing because they're always growing. They're always changing. They're always becoming more like Jesus. And because they're teachable and correctable, then they're able to even correct me and to teach me, because there's a humility. And we want that in our organization. So as staff, they teach and correct each other. We teach and correct each other. As volunteers, we teach and correct each other. And Solomon wrote elsewhere, he says, it's as iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. We help each other grow because we care about what we're doing here. We want to be more like Jesus. We want to represent him greater and to look more like him to people who have never heard about him or never seen him. We want our church to be healthy and functioning, and so these are the type of people that when they're in leadership, that man, everybody has a great opportunity of experiencing Jesus, and it is great. And when the wise person receives what Jesus offers, then they receive even more than what he offers. Solomon, who obviously we're talking about, he's a great example of this. When he became king after his father David died, God came to him and said, hey, ask for anything and I'll give it to you. And Solomon said, give me wisdom. And in 1 Chronicles chapter 1, it recounts this story, and God heard his request and said, hey, I'm going to give you wisdom. And then in verse 12 said, I'm also going to give you all of those things you could have asked for. I will give you riches, possessions, and honor, such as none of the kings who were before you, and none after you shall have the like. And so, hey, you could have asked for any of these things, but because you asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you all these things as well. And the wise person, they don't just receive what Jesus offers, they receive even more. So the wise person doesn't just receive a spouse, but they receive a marriage and a relationship. The wise person doesn't just receive finances, but they receive the ability to be generous. The wise person doesn't just receive salvation, but they receive a testimony to share with other people. The wise person doesn't just receive forgiveness, but they receive freedom. And so you're not just going to a church saying, here's the sins that I've done, and you walk back out and you just keep living the same way. But the wise person, they receive forgiveness, and then they allow Jesus to do something in their heart, that they're free from those things that they don't even want to do anymore. So I think about one illustration to close that kind of wraps this up. So myself and some of the other staff and a whole bunch of adults here, we volunteer every year at a summer camp. And if your kid and your teenager has never come to summer camp with us, make them go this year. It's absolutely amazing. It's at the last week of June, and we'll have more information from it as soon as the district gets their act together and puts out all the paperwork. And so I'm that guy, sorry, in case you think I'm talking bad about our denomination. I'm the one not doing that. So the last two summers, so summer 2016, these two brothers came in, and every night we have a church service for the kids or the teenagers, and these two brothers, about 17 and 15 years old, sat in their row the entire time. And when people are worshiping, they're making fun of the other kids. When teenagers are coming forward at the end to be prayed for, they're making fun of those kids and not participating. I had to go multiple times that year and tell them to knock it off and be quiet. Like, you don't have to participate, but just shut up. And so last summer, they show up at summer camp, and it was like there was something different about them. So they're 18 and 16 years old now, and I knew something was different about them because they talked to me when they got there. And I'm like, oh, wow, I wonder what's going to happen this year. So the first couple of nights of service, they were not as disruptive. They're kind of the same way, like sitting with their arms crossed, not participating, and not engaged. But the older brother was 18 years old. By the end of the week, he had gone up for prayer during the service, and it was kind of shocking. But his younger brother was 16, never really kind of was engaged in the service, and neither were some of the friends. And in November, I was talking with these boys. I was talking with their grandfather, and I was surprised to find out that younger brother, the 16-year-old, was the most interested in Jesus. He said, out of all my grandkids, he's the one who's the most spiritual. He'll call me and ask for prayer. We'll talk about the Bible together. We'll talk about church. He's the one that's most interested. And I was shocked because he's not engaged. In those 2 years at summer camp, he's not engaged. And I think it's because his older brother was the scoffer. And he was hanging out with the older brother and older brother's friends. And so he may have wanted to go forward and experience these things, which sounds like he did. But he wouldn't go forward because of the climate that his older brother set. And even when his older brother realized what had happened and or begin to participate in the services at the end, it was like the little brother still couldn't push past that. And in his scoffing, he missed out of what he wanted most. I mean, he wants Jesus. He wants to know about the Bible. He wants to follow Jesus, but because he was surrounded by these scoffers, he never went after it. So, I mean, you want to come forward and be prayed for, but then you won't because you're worried about what other people would think, or maybe even the person next to you is like, don't you do that. You want to be water baptized, but you're here this morning and the person next to you is like, don't you ever do this. Like, you're my normal kid. Don't you ever be baptized. And so you won't go through it because someone is scoffing. You want to step out in faith and go after something, but you just worry about what everybody's going to think and how they're going to put you down. Listen, go for it. Go after what Jesus has for you. Don't let other people keep you from what you need. Don't let them keep you from Jesus. Surround yourself with people who are going the direction you want. You want to follow Jesus, surround yourself with people who follow Jesus. You want to know about the Bible and read the Bible, surround yourself with people who read the Bible. You want to lose weight, surround yourself by people who work out. Surround yourself with people who are going the direction you want. If you'll close your eyes, I just want to take a moment and pray for you. And, you're here and maybe you are a scoffer, and this is an opportunity for you to talk about Jesus, to talk to Jesus about that, and to allow him to forgive you and to go the direction of your life that you want to go. And then maybe you're here and you have never made a decision to follow Jesus because maybe someone told you not to, or maybe other people were making fun of it, and so you just kind of rejected it. But as you're here now in this moment, you just feel, this is what I need. And I'm going to lead you in a prayer. And you can put this prayer in your own words, but I'm just helping you, give you some words to say what you're feeling right now, to help you to say to God, to say to Jesus what you're feeling right now. So I'll pray this, and you can repeat it after me, you can whisper it after me, you can write it down and pray it later. You can, but just to help you say what's going on. So just pray this: Jesus, I give you my life today, and I want to follow you. And I ask you to forgive me, and to save me, and to be my God. Today, I make a decision to follow you. And that simple prayer changes your life. I want you to keep your eyes closed, and we're going to sing for just a minute to give you an opportunity to think and reflect on what God is doing in your life right now, and maybe there's something you need to talk to Him about. So I would just want you to think, if you want this year to be different, you can't sit back making fun of everything, criticizing everything. You can't make fun of every diet. You can't make fun of people who are excited to be at church. You just can't sit back making fun of everything. And man, I just want you to give that to God right now. And if there's scoffers holding you back, just to say, God, give me the courage and the boldness to break free from that. Let's sing. Up, we have water baptism in this service, and we're excited to share this with you. We had baptisms in the first service, some in Plymouth today, and a couple of people we heard in Plymouth didn't sign up, but just in the service were moved, like, I need to take this next step, and so they were baptized today. Saw Mike was playing drums, and now he's with Pastor Andrew, and so I'm gonna just let the kids keep coming in, and then I'll let Andrew share some of Mike's story.
All right. There are certain times in ministry when you get really emotional when something happens, so this might be one of those for me, and I'll explain why. So for those of you who don't know, Mike grew up with me. We went to the same church for years together. We grew up going to youth groups, spending time with each other, and I think when we went to college, he moved over into Maine, and it was one of those things where, we've always been, close best friends, and so I missed him the whole time, and he spent 5 years never finding a church where he felt like he belonged. And last April, I moved out here. And the first thing I did was I told Mike, like, you got to come to our church. I'm pretty sure on the second week I came to Restoration, Mike joined me. And so he's been on an entire journey through Restoration with me in a lot of ways. And so it's almost as if we just picked up right where we left off. And so Mike shared in his story that he spent 5 years not feeling like he was good enough, not feeling like he was worth it, not feeling like God wanted him anymore. And he came here. He found love. He found a home. He found a place where he belongs. It's now that he's excited to come to church every week. He's excited to open his Bible and pray every day. And man, it's one of those things when I moved out here, I had to ask myself, did I make the right choice? Standing here with one of my closest friends, baptizing him today, I did. It was worth it. Because man, today I don't just baptize a follower or a person, but I baptize my brother. And that is what God is about. So with that, I'm going to
Absolutely so amazing. You guys are free to go back. Good to see you all. Glad to have you here. Stay in school. I was hoping Mike would have worn the eye patch in during his baptism. It would be a really good story. I won't give any background to it. Just like, man, God changed his lives, and it's like just this. Our prayer team and our ushers are coming forward right now. In a moment when we dismiss everybody, if you need prayer, when everybody was walking out of the room, we invite you to come forward. Receive what Jesus is offering you this morning. And, if you made your decision to follow Jesus today, if you would take a connection card and write your name on it, check that box and let me know. I want to know that you did that. And, sometimes walking out, you want to tell me, but walking out the door, it can be distracting and hard to tell me. So that's a great way for you to let me know. And then if you just, you don't want to wait, you want to sign up for the next baptism right now, you can fill that out on the card too. Just write down, sign up to be water baptized, and we'll let you know when the next one's going to be. Don't miss that. You can put those cards in the offering buckets when they go by. Now, maybe it can be kind of confusing if you've never been to church before and we're receiving money at the church, and people scoffers say, oh, all the church wants is your money, and so that keeps people from giving. But that's not what we're about. Here in New England, kind of especially, you'll see churches raising lots of money to fix a steeple. And that's what their church is about, keeping a steeple in the downtown area of their church. And, here at this building, we don't have a steeple. In Plymouth, we do. But if it ever is going to be we're about a steeple, let's cut the steeple down or let's all leave. Because God's mission is not about steeples, as beautiful and quaint as they are. God's mission is about people. And that's what we're about here. It's about moments like this. And everything that happens at Restoration Church is funded by Restoration Church. We don't have any outside funding source. So we give, and we are able to hire staff. We give, and we give to missions, which goes all around the world. We give, and it pays the bills and does repairs and upgrades things. But we don't give to keep a building. We give because God uses this building as a tool to reach just one more, to reach people with the good news of Jesus. And so this is a tool that we use and we operate so that our community here and in London, here and in Plymouth and in the Londonderry launch could have the opportunity to hear about Jesus. And, Mike grew up in church but didn't go to church for 5 years because there wasn't a church in the area he could get connected to. And he started driving here 45 minutes every week because God was doing something in his life here. And so that's why we give. It's changed our lives, and we want other people to experience the same thing. So, if you've never given before, we invite you to participate in that. But then, kind of more importantly, if you are giving, don't give out of guilt, don't give out of obligation, don't give out of legalism, don't give out of spite, but give because you want to be obedient to God, and give because you want to reach people with the good news of Jesus. So ushers can go forward, and you're certainly welcome to give online. There's no less spiritual way to give. A lot of people give recurring, automated through ACH, which is a great blessing. And so you have that invitation to give that way as well. Next Sunday, I want you back here. Next Sunday is Vision Sunday. And this is going to be a service you'll remember for the rest of your life. You may not remember why you remember it, but you're going to remember it, and it's going to be special. Last year in our Vision Sunday, we talked about some things, and we had no idea how it was going to happen, but God really set it up. Last year at Vision Sunday, we were one service in Dover. And then a couple of months later, we moved into 2 services. Then we had a church come to us and ask to merge with us, and that was Plymouth. And we had this $2 million building given to us for free, and just everything happening there. And then last summer, we had 20 people from the Londonderry area ask, hey, will you help us to start a Restoration Church in our community? We didn't know any of that was going to happen last year. And this morning is about 250 more people in service today than last year. Woo! And it's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we want you to be here to be a part of it, because we want you to capture it, to have faith with us, to be praying about the things we're praying about. It's going to be a lot of fun. Next week, they'll give you some paperwork or an invitation. If you got kids, next week they're having a pajama party and having hot chocolate and stuff, because you're going to leave with some goodies next week, and so they're going to be ticked off at you otherwise. So when they're mad that you got stuff and you won't share it, then you'll be able to say, you had your own party, all right, now we have our own party on our side of the church too. And then when they go into 6th grade, then they know how awesome the church is, and they'll be begging to come to big church, unlike me when I used to play sick every week. So as a kid. Now when I'm sick, I still come, and I just make Pastor Andrew preach. So listen, I love you guys. Why don't you stand to your feet? And if you need prayer, please come forward. Receive what Jesus is offering you. Other than that, man, guys, have a great day, and I'll meet you out in the lobby.